you've done a lot of work and podcasts on what is called Project Russia. Why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction to Project Russia? Why is it important for Americans to understand it? What is it exactly?
Sure. So, Project Russia is an ideological framework that was published in a series of books in Russia between 2005 and 2010. And it was initially published anonymously and distributed to cultural influencers, people in government, people high up in the Kremlin hierarchy. It is believed to have been commissioned by the Kremlin, and over time, by 2010, we learned the name of some of the authors of it. Effectively, these were folks that were, part of the Kremlin influence structure. And what they basically outlined was a strategy for undermining the West and a justification for doing so. They basically said that democracy is fundamentally flawed. They say it's decadent, that voters are very easily swayed and have kind of the same mindset as children, that they don't have either enough information or enough domain expertise to actually be entrusted with making any decisions about anything practically. And so therefore, it's just kind of a doomed, failed project that feeds the vanity of Western leaders to give them an air of legitimacy, and that the real strings in democracies are pulled from behind the scenes through the exercise of other kinds of power or through influence or social media, or whatever. So a very cynical view of democracy, as one would imagine. They also posit that Russia is blessed with a kind of built-in religious worldview, and that particularly the Orthodox Church gives Russians a kind of a armor that will protect them in their ongoing battle with the West. And it is very important that all Russians adopt at least some level of basic spirituality, because that is the difference between the Russian worldview and the kind of decadent, democratically led West. And then furthermore, there's a lot of griping around the dominance of the U.S. dollar and dollar hegemony. So, if you think about how Putin sees the world, he thinks that the dollar is an unfair device because Americans can print it at will through the Federal Reserve, and that they believe that profligacy with money enables American military adventurism. So therefore, they think that all of American hegemony is rooted in the dollar, and that the best thing in the world that could happen would be to eliminate the Federal Reserve and the U.S. dollar, replacing it with some kind of hard currency, whether that's gold, silver, crypto, or variants thereof.
Isn't it interesting then that all of the actions of our current president appear to be promoting this ideology?
Yeah, I'd say that it's a bit of a coincidence, right? And so, this Project Russia thing is not the only such place where this ideology is either outlined or executed, but it's one of the major places where you can find all these things together. And what's interesting about Project Russia is that these books, which are several hundred pages in length, really have not been translated into English meaningfully. There's a couple of academic papers that reference it, and I've done the work to translate those volumes.
And would you say that this is essentially the Mein Kampf of the Putin regime as relates to its interactions with the U.S. and the West in the last 12 years?
I'd say it's one of a few such things. I mean, it's certainly where there's probably the most concentration of signal in a single source. There's other things that you can look at, like there's something called the Strategic Culture Foundation that has fueled a ton of websites that contain similar themes. But I'd say that it's, if you want like a good place just to see an encapsulation of what Russia thinks it's doing, this is a really good place to look.
I'm going to come back to the Mein Kampf analogy, though, because what Mein Kampf was important for was not only Hitler's articulation, after the beer putsch of what he really stood for, but it was important as a kind of constitution to rally enough elites to his cause, right? In other words,
Right.
The difference in 1933 to in 1921 is he could get various industrialists and retired World War I generals on board to have the Enabling Act passed. And that he had a manifesto and a program was very important. And if we look at other ideological political manifestos, I'm quite knowledgeable about the Green Book in Libya because when I lived in Libya, I worked on the Green Book. But if you look at Mao's Red Book, it was the existence of this treatise that allowed a certain cadre of forces to work together to achieve certain aims. How is Project Russia a corpus that allows the Alexander Dugins or other technologists to work together, maybe Prigozhin before he was dead, to support this Ruski Mir and various ideas of the Kremlin?
Yeah, I think you make a good point in that, what this functions, in terms of how it actually works in a society is you put this out there and it creates a kind of common direction that people that are aiming to engage in this, they can all be sort of working from the same songbook without explicitly coordinating.
Thank you for watching this clip. If you want to hear the whole episode, you can do that by going to our channel and then clicking on the Disorder Episodes playlist. And remember to follow. We're also available wherever you listen to your podcast. Please subscribe. Links are in the description to this video. Thank you for watching, my dear mega orderers.